Hello, folks. Greetings. Uh, Today, I am going to continue with the business process management notation, and we are going to create a new diagram. And today, we are actually going to look at a real business domain, right? And the business domain I'm talking about is what will happen in a financial organization. And I'm going to go really slow because it's a business. Understanding business domain is a lot more difficult than we think, right? I know that software development in itself is difficult, but I'm saying that in order for us to understand a business domain, it's a bit difficult because when we are in a business domain, there are jargons, there are ideas, there are rules that's different from other areas. Okay, so I'm talking about the business domain in the financial industry. When the financial company, it could be an insurance company, it could be a bank, it could be investment bank, any of the financial companies, the way they communicate with their customers, especially in the return form, is a lot more complex than what we think. Okay, and that is because that the communication that they communicate with the customers is legally binding. Okay, I'll just try to break it down in simpler words. And the simpler words, I can break it down only if I give an example. Okay, the example is, let's say that you're applying for a loan. Okay, so there is a loan disclosure agreement. Okay, where the financial company may say that, hey, I can provide you this kind of loan, this is the term, this is the APR, and then there's a lot of text that we ignore to read, which talks about various legal things that makes that loan agreement a compliant document. What do you mean by compliant document? Because the government scrutinizes, state government, federal government, they scrutinize what you're disclosing. And because they want to make sure that you're being fair with your customer. Okay, so there are a lot of government rules that need to apply, there are a lot of legal rules that need to apply, and then you communicate. And when you communicate, there are various modes of communication. Okay, what do I mean by that? Now, you can communicate by a regular snail mail, right? You can send a mail. You can print the document and send it through mail. That's the easiest way to do it. You can send a fax. I know that we are in the 21st century, but people still use fax. You could, of course, send email, but the implications there is email really secure? Okay, question to be asked. And many financial organizations also send the document to their own storage systems where they can display that to the customer when they log into their website or a mobile app, right? So that's another way you can send communication. Now, there are specific kind of communication that can be sent as an SMS, that can be sent as a push device message, right? It can come as a message in the device itself. So there are various ways in which you can send this information to the customer. So that's one side. And the other side is there's a lot of legal implications. And these legal implications or legal requirements have to be followed. Okay. So you will not imagine that there are functional organizations, functional teams, both on the business side and on the technical side, to deal with software, hardware, process, and people to conduct just this one function in a financial organization. Okay. Now, that domain is what we are going to describe in terms of a BPMN diagram. and we'll see how to do it, right? Now, when you're looking at these kind of really complex, really big business diagrams, then you got to do some planning. Okay, you cannot just directly start dragging and dropping things like how we did in the previous class. Okay, so to start with, we can try to pull the functional units. Okay, and these functional units are I'm just going to mimic some of the functional units that I am familiar with. Now, different companies work different ways. Okay, so there is a functional unit called and I can put that again. Let me make it a little bigger. Okay. So the first functional unit I'm going to say is that it's called as a communication. Oof. Template management. Okay. So what does this mean? Okay. So what it means is that financial organizations, generally what happens is that they are sending so many, I mean, the loan disclosure document is one document. Okay. They have thousands of documents, they have thousands of products. Okay. For everything there is some written document that they need to send. There is some SMS text they need to send. There's some facts they need to send, right? So there's all kinds of things. Okay. Now, generally, to manage this, what they do is that they are not letting, the customer service person or the business person to actually type in a letter, okay? Because there's a lot of legal language, legal text. So, what they do is that they actually create document templates or communication templates. So, the templates will have all these legal language. They will also have different sections of the templates stored in different ways. And then when a business event occurs, like somebody applies for a loan, that business event will generate a lot of data. So what will happen is that those data elements will become variables in this template and they will sort of do a mail merge. Okay, like the word mail merge, and then send it to the customer. So there is a functional unit that actually manages these templates and maintains these templates, because remember that the legal rules, government rules, compliance requirements keep changing over time. Okay, so they maintain these rules in the form of templates, and those templates have a lot of things associated with it, so that they know that, hey, for this kind of communication, I'm using this kind of template. Okay, so that is the communication template management functional unit. Okay, good. Then I'm going to create another functional unit, and I'm going to call this as communication generation management. Okay, this one seems straightforward. This functional unit, what it does is, this unit is the one that receives specific business event data and actually does the mail merge, okay, which is the generation. But the things that this unit needs to take care of, generating documents or generating messages or generating communication in various formats, dealing with security, dealing with packaging, dealing with printing, dealing with fonts. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens in this communication generation management functional unit. And then I'm going to add one more functional unit, and I call it as communication delivery management. Now, what this unit takes care of is, okay, you have got a digital copy of that communication, okay, in whatever format you want it. Like if it is an email, it will be in HTML format. If it is a SMS text, obviously it's in text format. If it is a fax or a, snail mail delivery, it will be in some sort of PDF format. Afterwards, it needs to get printed, right? So all of that issue. So you got these sort of documents, communication data in a digital format. Now this functional unit is responsible for delivering them to the right delivery channel, as so to speak. Okay, so there's a communication delivery management. Then you see, when you deliver these kind of communication, generally financial companies also keep a copy of it in their systems, so that tomorrow if there is a legal issue, tomorrow if there is something that they need to refer to understand what is that they sent. I mean, of course they have the business data, but what communication did they actually send 5 years back? Nobody knows about it. So they keep a record of that. So in other words, if there is a customer, they know all the communication that they have sent in return form to that customer. Okay, so they can take a look at it, they can look at the history, and if tomorrow the customer, for various reasons, even if they go to the court or something, they can prove and say that, hey, here's a document that we sent to the customer. Here's a loan disclosure agreement that we sent to a customer. You got it? So for that, there is a communication records storage management. You see, just if you think about a simple business as sending a letter or a statement or a policy document to the customer, there is so many functional units involved and it's complicated. Okay, that is why we need to do business modeling, and the best way to do business modeling is use this BPMN notation, right? Okay, so we got all of these things. So now the first thing, so this is the first thing that you need to think about is like, what are my functional units? Okay, the next thing that you need to think about is what kind of business events these functional units will be dealing with. Okay, what kind of start business units. Now we don't care that much about the interim and the end business events. We do care, but right now we don't have to care. So it's not there is one business process. There may be multiple business processes. Okay. So for example, here is one business, the template communication management. They may have an event that is about new communication. New type of communication is needed. Okay, so new type Okay, there's a new type of communication that is needed. Let me pull this guy a little bit out so that we can see that that's a comment. There also could be, you know, modify existing template. Okay, now there could also be, I can go over the board and say that there's a way to retire existing template or remove, delete existing template, right? So all kinds of CRUD stuff can come. CRUD means create, update, read and delete kind of events can come in there. But we are only thinking about two events. And even here, for simplicity's sake, I'll think about a new communication event and then maybe, I can do a modify just like that. Okay. So the task with any of these new type of communication, let's start with new type. Then, as we go, we'll think about how things happen when you modify. Okay. The first task that happens is you gather, and let's be very specific about these tasks moving forward, because this is a user task or a manual task. Okay, so it's a user task is basically gather communication requirements. Okay, and this can be as simple as in which is this like an SMS message you're thinking about? Is this snail mail or is it both? What kind of communication is this? What is the legal text you want? All kinds of business rules will have to be gathered to understand, okay, what is that you want? Okay, so that is the first step that happens. Okay, and obviously if you want to modify it, again, what do you want to modify, right? Same kind of rules apply. Okay, then so once you gather the communication, right, okay, it's giving an error message. The next thing that you got to do is again a user task, because it's something that somebody has to do, right? Is configure communication metadata. Okay. What do you mean by that? What I mean is that, when you're doing communication, okay, what's going to happen is that you're actually first understanding, okay, this is the communication that needs to be sent. That means what variables are there. So you got to define those variables first, okay, before you think about what is the content of the template, right? So for a simple letter, it could be like a first name, last name, and signature, right? But if you're talking about like a loan disclosure agreement, right, the variables could be first name, last name, the amount of loan, the number of years that loan is going to be applied, what is the APR, for what reason this loan is there, is the loan approved or not. You see that there is so many business variables that will come into play. Okay, so that is what is communication metadata, right? In fact, I will just put it as communication variable metadata. Okay, after that, there is another user task called create template. So this is where you're actually creating a template for a specific communication, right? So let's put the arrows. Okay, and if it is a modified issue, then I'm going to copy the same thing. Instead of configure, I will say modify. Or, yeah, modify. And then instead of create, I will have modify. Okay, and so after gathering the requirement, for modification, it has to flow this way. And I usually like to put it like that. Okay. Then after you modify the metadata, you are modifying the template itself. So there's sort of two parallel things that's going on. Sometimes if it is new communication, this is how you flow. If it is existing communication, this is how you flow. Okay. And try to make it look or align right so that people understand. Now, as I told you that when we are building these kind of models, there will be a lot of stakeholders who may tell you that, oh, that's not how it works. Maybe this is how it works. So I'm just making up things. Of course, I know this domain, but I'm making up things a little bit. But in reality, the stakeholders will be telling what this process is. Okay. Now, following this process, there's going to be an automated task that is called as save communication template. So whatever is created as is getting saved, and that is automated, that is a service, and both of these guys can save stuff. Okay. Okay, and let's drag the process a little bit more. And then there will be, definitely there will be, so once this thing has been saved, now a sample is generated and sent to the business so that the business can validate if that's what they require, right? So then you need to get a business sign off. So I'm going to create this again, can be automated. So I'm just going to make it like a automated task, and that says get business sign off. Okay. Now I want to show you something interesting that will happen. So, okay, you're trying to get the business sign off. Now there is going to be an exclusive gateway that you need, because once you get the business signed off, or once you seek the business sign off, there is a possibility the business says, oh no, this is not what we wanted. We wanted some more stuff, right? So if that is the case, you will have to modify your existing either the design of the template, or you may have to add more variables. So that could be additional requirement gathering that needs to happen if the business rejected it. Okay, so I'm going to say if not signed off. Okay, if it is not signed off, then you are going through this this process again where you'll be gathering requirements, you'll be modifying the data, you'll come back, and then you'll come back to the business side. So it's kind of a loop, right, until it gets signed off. Now, on the other hand, if it does get signed off, I'm going to make this a little bigger. See, the thing that you'll notice is in a real business scenario, things are really complicated. There's so many things that need to happen, right? So, and it's okay to have larger areas. So now, if it does get signed off, then there is going to be a service task which says um, move template to production runtime. Okay, so until now the template is being modified, it's being remodified, whatever. But the moment the that job is done, once the business gives you the approval, then all you got to do is you got to move the template to production runtime. That means what? There is going to be a production runtime template database. Okay. So I'm going to call it as template database. And so now things are moving and getting stored in the template database, and then that is the end of that particular event. There you go. So once you store, everything ends. Okay, so if it is signed off, and so here we need to put if signed off. Now I've just simplified a lot of stuff here so that you can actually visually see what I'm trying to do, but in reality this may be even more complicated. Okay, let me pull this like that. Okay, and pull the size of this a little bit longer. Okay, so now that a template is created for communication, that this template can be reused again and again for various generation needs, right? So let's look at the communication generation management. Here the business event that comes in is business event, or let me put need new client communication. So you kind of need new client communication. Make it a little bigger. Okay, so you need new client communication. Okay, there is a need for it. So once there is a need for it, what happens? Okay, what happens is there is a service that is available that collects communication variables. So you're just inputting a bunch of communication variables, and I don't know, it's a service, whether I don't know if the business application is calling this service, could be, right? Or somebody is typing in and calling this service, it doesn't matter, okay? And I've simplified it, but basically they say that, hey, there is a collection of communication variables. Now, once the communication variable is collected, there is another service task which is generate and format communication. So you're actually doing the mail merge basically, and for a specific format, depending on some requirements, right? And then you are actually generating that communication. Okay. Now, generally, what happens is that when you are generating communication, it's not like, so let's say that you are applying for a life insurance policy, right? Now, the first packet that comes to you, it's not just a life insurance policy. There'll be a cover letter, there'll be a life insurance policy, there'll be disclosure for your particular state, there will be some legal implication, there may be some follow-up forms that the customer may have to fill. So there's multiple things that is being generated and packed together into one, okay? Which means that it's not just generate and format communication, you also want to package you may need to do some packaging, and it depends on the kind of things that you're sending. Of course, if you're sending one SMS message, you don't need to package anything, right? But if you're sending an email, then probably there are some attachments that you need to add. The attachments may have to be put together into one attachment, or it could be multiple attachments. If you're sending a fax document or a postal document, you may have to take multiple PDFs and put them together, right? So there is some packaging going on. And remember that in order to generate this template, you do need to kind of get the data from this template database, right? So you do have a arrow pointing to the template database, and okay, so because you do need to get that information from the template database, so that's how these two functional units are related, right? And you are packaging the communication, okay? And after packaging the communication, you are actually generating a event, and I would put it's an interim event, okay, which says communication data or communication packet is ready for delivery. You see that? Okay, you're just saying that, okay, I got the formatted document and now it's ready for delivery, okay? Let me see. Going to make this little presentable. Push it here, okay, and push it all the way here. Okay, So and that's all you need to do, because in this functional unit, it's just generation. Now again, as I said, I'm oversimplifying all of these things so that we can do this in 1 hour class. Okay, but in reality, these things could be very complex. Okay, there may be some failure scenarios that we need to deal with. There may be, let's say that the customer is saying, hey, send this communication, but up here that communication is already retired, or the template is already retired. What do we do? Right? You may have to create more boxes and arrows and diamonds and circles to get there. Okay, that could be a scenario where okay, there is this particular insurance policy, but the policy changes if somebody is applied it in this date. Okay, so from this date to this date, if the application falls into this date, then the template is different, but if it is falling into a different date, the template is different. Those kind of rules may be there. Okay, and there may be rules too where you say that, well, you have a communication, but I am also making a carbon copy of this communication and sending it to somebody else, or I'm just going to make a copy of that communication, but now I need to send that to through email. So I need to send an email as well as I need to send snail mail. So there are many rules like that. Okay, now it's quite possible that I can actually put a business rule task here. Okay, and I put that there and lower these a little bit. Okay, and you could say apply business rules for communication. Okay, and instead of putting the arrow here, I could, well, let's see, I could take that arrow, put it up here, I need to play little games here. Okay, and then I could have done it this way, right? And what I'm doing right here is exactly what will happen when a stakeholder or a business person comes and says, hey, that's not how this works. There has to be some business rules that we need to apply. You see where I'm going, right? So that is what will happen when you collaborate. So all of these things I'm showing you is a collaborative thing. Don't think that you're doing things in isolation. Okay, you are actually collaborating, and there may be other things that you may have to record. There may be some gateways involved, I don't know, right? But I'm just making these things up. Now the other thing that could happen is that when you're packaging your communication, there could be also some existing communication that you want to attach to this current communication, right? So then you need to add more arrows to figure out where that existing communication is stored. How do I pull it? There's so many things that could happen. Okay, but anyway, I think this is good enough. The diagram still looks nice because I see that the process is complex, and we also got a chance to apply or put a business rules task that we put it here. Okay, and then we generated an interim event. Okay, why is it an interim event? Because the process is not over, right? In the top, when you're creating a template or you're modifying a template, the process is over as soon as you store a business signed off template. But in this case, you just generated the doc communication, but it needs to be delivered, right? So, and that needs to be done here. So that is why that is an interim event. Okay, so now this interim event gets passed on to the next function unit. Okay, where their job is to deliver. Okay, so here again, I'm just going to delete it. And depending on the channel through which you are trying to deliver, there are some business rules that you need to apply. Okay, so apply. apply communication delivery rules. Okay, that's the first thing that happens. Okay, I'm going to apply these rules, and once I apply the rules, is things working, right? Is the things working the way I want it to work? You don't know, so you are applying the delivery rules, right? And then you are trying to do a send. Well, hold on. This is a service task or an automated task. It says send communication to channel mechanism. And I'll tell you what that means. And by the way, it doesn't have to, your flow doesn't have to necessarily flow from left to right. It can also flow from right to left. It's flexible, okay? And because we created this picture, I'm just going in the reverse direction now. So you're sending the communication to the channel mechanism. That means that depending on your company and the products that you use, you may send it to a printing device. That's one channel mechanism. You may send it to Twilio if you're sending an SMS. You may send it to a fax vendor product if you are sending a fax. So things could happen, right? Then there is another service task, which is confirm delivery. So when you're sending these kind of communications to some sort of delivery device or a delivery mechanism, you do need to get some confirmation before you say that, hey, you're done. You understand? Okay, so you confirm the delivery, and then after the delivery is confirmed, you generate an event which says delivery is confirmed. Now, here itself, I may have to remove this arrow and I may have to put an exclusive gateway. And that is because the delivery can be confirmed. That's an interim event. And I'm going to say confirm. But also the delivery could fail. Why? Because these are devices. Something may get wrong with the printer. Something may get wrong with the email inbox is full for this particular client. So, or Google says that they don't like your spam message. Okay, whatever that is. So there are failure scenarios. If a failure occurs, then what you do is that you will have to apply again try to send it. Now it's also possible that there are business rules that says that, hey, if something fails, and for example something fails to be sent through email, okay, then send it through snail mail. Okay, so probably you're again applying some rules and then coming back and trying again, so that retry can go on. And then at some point you may say that, hey, I've retried enough times, I'm just going to notify my clients, the business that that asked to send this communication, saying that, hey, we tried, but there's something wrong and we couldn't do it. right? And there may be some exception process. So that could happen in this delivery functional management, right? But once things are confirmed, then there is another business rule task. Business rule task that comes from this failed or confirmed scenario where apply retention rules. Okay, what do I mean by that? Like, so for example, if somebody is asking for a loan, okay, you said that, hey, we checked your credit history and everything, we are sorry, we cannot give you a loan. Okay, they send a disclosure thing that says that, hey, we rejected your own loan application, we can't give you the loan. Now that is a very dangerous thing, especially in America, right? Because that the customer may say that, hey, I have perfect credit, but these guys are discriminating because I belong to a different race. You know, things like that can happen. So therefore, the government stipulates that whatever communication you're sending to your customers, you need to keep it. Okay. So some of it needs to be kept for 7 years. Some of it needs to be kept for 3 years. Some of it needs to be kept for 30 years. If let's say that there is a mortgage application which has a 30-year loan term, you may have to keep that mortgage application until the mortgage ends and also plus 7 years after that. So that's 47 years, right? So you need to keep record of these things. So you got to first apply those retention rules, and then you actually do another service task called store communication data in the business records database. Okay, somewhere that data is being stored. Okay, it needs to be in a secure place where you're storing it. In the business records, I'm just going to remove the database. Okay, because there's too much text in there. So that happens. Okay, so that is one event on the confirmation of delivery. Okay, it's delivered, and of course it's a fair estimate that it got delivered. You don't know physically if it got delivered or not, or the customer read it or not, but it did got delivered. So you made a good faith effort to deliver it because there were retries and stuff. But after that, you're storing it in the business records. And so obviously there is going to be a database that stores that record. Okay. Okay. Okay, so that gets stored. And then after that, this particular event actually ends. And it's a hard end. Okay, it's not an interim event, it's a end event. Correct? Okay. But then there could also be another event which is retrieve previous communication. Right? There could be an event that says, hey, I want to retrieve this communication. So in that case, you have a service task to retrieve communication. So it flows from here to here. Then this guy is saying, okay, retrieve the communication for me, please. Okay, and after retrieving the communication, you may have to again deliver it. Okay, so I might have a interim event, and it is an interim event because you retrieved it, but you got to deliver it somehow. Okay, so we'll say delivery ready. Well, on the interim event, I'll put that event. Okay. Okay, and what I mean by this is, so if somebody is trying to retrieve it, there's an interim event that is generated, and in that case also you may have to tell the delivery function unit to deliver this document. You see that? Okay, so it goes back there. Okay, so and those are interim events. So now you got an idea of why we have interim events. Okay, so this is kind of, that's your process map, right? And then, of course, the one thing that you would notice is that I didn't talk about what system is used, what database is used. Are you using Oracle or DB2, or are you doing this through the cloud? Technology doesn't matter. This is the business process, right? Now, you can map technology to these. You can put pain points to these. You can also, so looking at this itself, you can think about process improvement, right? Is this process right? Should I improve the process itself? There are too many errors, there are too many tasks, there are too many steps, it's expensive. So those things can be analyzed just by visualizing the process. But beyond that, you can also put some mapping. For example, you can say that, hey, this technology is used here, and therefore it takes like 30 minutes to generate a document, so we need to replace it. Okay, or why is that there are these events and no direct arrows between processes from one functional unit to another functional unit? We may need to make it more tightly coupled. So these are decisions you can take once you have a running model, a real model. And of course, from the modeling perspective, sometimes, I would recommend, this is my recommendation, that don't put too much details. Then it will confuse everybody, right? So put the essential details, then you might add some additional notes and things like that in your other wiki document or something else where you can put some business rules and stuff. But overall, if somebody is looking at this model, they need to understand how this business process works. Okay. So that's pretty much it for today's class. So thank you very much for listening to this, and I hope you are now going to get your hands dirty with more business processes that you're seeing in your real life and model them. So every time you model them, you will get a better idea, and in the end of the day, you have a tool that you can offer to your business clients that's saying that, hey, I can give you, we can just model this, we can put things visually and see how your process works. And once we model it, we can also look at it from the perspective of, is there a way to improve this process? And along with that, is there enabling technologies that can eliminate some of these processes? Or can it automate some of these processes? Can I use AI to do, for example, the requirement collection? So those kind of things can be analyzed and decided on once you have a working model of your business process. Okay. Okay, with that, I thank you all, and we'll see you in the next class. Thanks, everyone.